One of the things that I have to do before I bolt this transmission back up, well, a couple of things that I have to do is I've got to get this gasket off of there. But I also have to replace that bearing. This is the replacement bearing of the bearing that was on there where all of the rollers dropped down into the housing. Well, not all of the rollers, I think it was 3 of them, but so this is that replacement bearing. I've got to get that on there before I put the transmission back on and get this gasket cleaned up in preparation for putting that transmission back on. So I'll bring you back here. Well, we'll probably continue right on. Is that rust in there? Let me go figure out. Let me see if it addresses that bearing in the manual and see if they talk about needing it to be pressed back on. What I did is grab the old bearing and before I went to the manual, grab the old bearing, and that is a tight fit too, so I'm assuming that it does have to be pressed back on. Let me find something to take care of that with. So it is in the book. They just tell you to hammer it on with a tube type hammer or implement. So by the way, the torque value on that is 100 foot-pounds too. Okay, let me get that, put this stuff away, and I'll get that nut and retaining ring on there. There's a ring that gets pounded over to retain that nut, keep it from loosening up. I'll bring you back. Okay, so what I've got is this arrangement to get a torque wrench on it. I've got the back end in gear so that it won't pivot. 100 foot-pounds again. There we go. And I'll bring you back to show you painting the thing over. I'll just give you a little shot of this. What I did was I have a fairly long, fairly dull chisel that I can get behind those prongs on, and then I just bend it out a little bit, and then I'll take a punch and just bend it down. And that's a retaining on that nut so that the nut doesn't spin. And what I'll do is I'll go to the other side and do one over there also. That won't allow the nut to spin. What I got to do is I got to get this gasket off. I think I'm going to go over the transmission, make sure all of those gaskets are cleaned up too, and there's a little oil plate that goes on top of the thing. I want to put that on before it gets forgotten. But I'll bring you back. This is where that oil plate goes on the top of the transmission. You might remember me talking about this thing before because it was so oddly shaped. Well, not oddly shaped, but the plate doesn't fit the contours of the transmission housing, which I kind of thought was odd. It looked like an afterthought, or somebody had put it on there after the fact. And this is a plate that goes on there. Now, there is some O-rings, I think, in there. There is O-rings in there. Let's not call them O-rings, let's call them square rings, but unless they got compressed and look square now. Let me go see if I can, what I have in the 50 or so O-rings that came in the kit, and see if I've got anything that'll fit that. I'll bring you back. This is the back side of that plate, and that's the O-ring. I mean, looks more like a washer than an O-ring. Do I have anything that'll fit in there? Yeah. Let me clean this up a little bit before I put that in there. I'll bring it back. I just kind of scrubbed it off with sandpaper, really rough. I'll clean the ports up before the mating surface where it goes to make sure that's really good and clean. Put a little Scotch-Brite on it or something, and then bolt it down. But I'll bring it back. And there's that surface before I put it on. I just kind of went over it with a file because it looks like there's inserts or tubes or something in there. Kind of stuck proud a little bit of it, but just put it on like that. I had to grab a wrench and tighten that up. While I was grabbing the wrench, I came around the back side of that transmission and took a look at it. That mating surface that attaches to that rear end is going to have to be gone through before we can bolt that up. So I've got to clean up both the back side of the transmission and the front side of the rear end housing before I can put this back together. But I'll bring here is that face on the back side of the transmission, and as you can see, I've still got some gasket stuff on there that I've got to get off, but I'm not going to show you that. I'll just go through and clean this up and show me starting to clean up the front side of that rear end where this thing mounts up to. I'm going to start cleaning up this front side of the rear end the same way that I did the other thing. One of the things that I'm going to do is, or one of the things I've done is I slipped a piece of paper in there just to keep some of the debris that I scraped off of here from going inside, getting down into the bed of the that gear casing. And then I'll afterwards, I've still got the side of it open. I can get in there with a small back attachment and also clean that out a little bit. But again, I'm not going to show you all of this. I'll bring it back. Finally got the surface clean. Did it with a scraper. Just kind of pushing on it, palm of my hand. Little blister in the palm of my hand. Feel like Tom Hanks in Castaway. If there was blood, I could get a soccer ball and make Wilson. I've got it up on the chain, or got the chain on it. I'm about ready to disconnect it off of the engine stand and take it over to the tractor. Okay, so here's the engine stand, and I've got the transmission off. Now, I just brought it over here, and I've got it kind of resting on some boards on the engine hoist. Because I still have to clean up the other side of that. Housing, but and I'm just going to bring it over here and land it, and I'll probably be setting it on with a gantry crane. So I'll bring you back. One of the other things that I've still got to do is get these plugs out of the let's call it the differential axle housing. Now, if you recall, there's a plug in the center that I got out, but underneath each axle there's also an auxiliary plug, and I just want to pull it out to get that old oil out of there. What I did do was I didn't have a 3/8 breaker bar. It takes a 3/8 square stock, so I didn't have a 3/8 breaker bar. I put an old ratchet on it, and like a pull pipe, and tried pulling on it, and it kind of stripped the ratchet out. So what I got from my tool guy is I have this 1/2-inch breaker bar, and I got an adapter, and so it goes 1/2-inch to 3/8 adapter. Now the thing is guaranteed, so if I break it, which is very possible, I can get a replacement. But again, if I break it, I've got to probably figure out another way of getting it out. Even though I can get a replacement, more than likely the replacement would break if the original one broke too. So I will set the camera up in the tripod and kind of show you my effort in trying to get it out. So I'm going to do this before I remount the transmission on. I've still got that gasket to do too, so kind of trying to put it off and let my hand heal a little bit from the other one. Well, it broke loose. It's no easy feat because it's a square thing. I had to go at an angle back there because the jack stand was in the way, or the drawbar bracket was in the way. But I got it loose. So what I'll do is I'll put a ratchet on it now and get a bucket under it. I'm not sure what's going to come out of it, so I'll bring you back though. I loosened it up with a ratchet. Just going to pull it out now. And I'm glad I did that. There's that gray gunky oil again. I'm going to go around and I'll do you know, it almost feels to me like there's when I rub it between my fingers, or when I first started rubbing it between my fingers, it almost felt like abrasive, like a little bit of metal particles in there, but I don't know. Again, there's that gray oil saga. I was able to open the door. It stopped raining. You know, when I got here this morning, it was nice. It was sunny out. And then it started darkening up and thundering off in the distance, and all of a sudden it let loose. Now I was on the other side of the shop. This door was open as well as the other door on the other side, and it started raining and blowing, and this water happened about an hour ago, probably within 30 seconds of me getting the door shut. It's been like that all year long. It happened over on the other side too, kind of worse than that door, but all it's done this year is rain and rain and rain. Got to build an ark. Here's the other side. I'm able to get that breaker bar on a little bit. In a better position. I gotta tell you, I don't think this one's gonna come off. One more time. Trying to get the damn thing up in there and lined up. Let me bring it back. Let's try and tighten this head up a little bit. I got it up there as best I could. You know what happened? It didn't loosen, it stripped out. It stripped out the inside of the plug. It looks like somebody else had tried to take that plug out. Yeah. Just stripped out the inside of the plug. Well, I guess I could drill it and try and remove it. I hate to do that because I have terrible luck getting stuff out, old threads out. Somebody let me know if you know of a way of getting the oil out of there without pulling that plug. I mean, I could break that housing apart probably. I really didn't want to do that. But I sure as hell like to get that oil out of there. Man, I hate that oil. Anyways, let me think about this for a while. I've still got to get that gasket on, and then I'll be still got to get that gasket off, and then we'll start putting that transmission on. Let me think about that plug deal, and the next time you'll be back, it'll be the next chapter.